Hey guys, how's it going? So, welcome to my video. I am sitting in my car at Kohl's right now, and man, it kind of sucks really because I was hoping to go home after a long day of shopping, Christmas and all, and this situation happens where now I have an issue. All right, I was in Kohl's for maybe like an hour and a half. Came back out, was hoping to go home, had a couple bags with me. I'm like, let's go home. And I'm like, man, I tried turning on my car and the worst thing, like nothing happened. And I tried at least 15 times, at least 15 times to turn on my car and nothing happens, which really, really, really sucks. All right, because I was thinking, all right, so I had this situation happen maybe 2 months ago. And maybe another time a month ago. I was thinking, okay, it's probably, I don't know, battery or something like that. Maybe I left something on. Or whatever. Maybe it's the battery. I just never got around to change the battery. So I was like, okay, hoping it's the battery. Because I could just go to AutoZone, Uber to AutoZone, get a battery, pop it in, not a problem. So I was thinking, maybe that's the case. Right? Maybe that's the case. So I turn on my high beams, not my high beams. I turn on my headlights. That's the test, right? Turn on my headlights, went out, and checked the headlights just to see how bright they are. And guess what? They were pretty damn bright. I mean, it's nighttime right now. They were pretty bright. Darn it. They're pretty bright. So I'm thinking to myself, could it be the battery? I mean, they're pretty bright. I mean, everything else works in my car. All the lights work. Radio works, nice and loud. If I turn it loud, it's nice and loud. Blow motor works. On the high setting, it works. Remote works. Everything works. Except for one thing. This car is not cranking at all. It's not turning. It's not cranking. It's nothing. It's just dip. I hear a click every time I try to turn it on. I just hear a click. It's like every time I try to turn it, a click, click, click. Nothing. So I opened my hood up and checked the battery, checked the terminals. I noticed that the terminals were a little bit corroded. So what I did was, I was thinking, that's probably the case. Probably wasn't, the alternator probably wasn't charging the battery up that good because it was corroded. Parked it, the car's, batteries like maybe like 25%, 10% on it. So I'm like thinking, okay, all right, I'm feeling a bit better now, okay, because it's something simple. So I took out my wrench set, mini wrench set that I got from AutoZone, and I pretty much took the terminals off. I had a can of Coke. Well, I didn't have a can of Coke. I actually went to 7-Eleven to get some Coke. Poured some Coke over it. Took some tissues, wiped it. The oxidation, the fizzling, I actually cleaned it, and it cleaned it pretty good. Not 100%, cleaned it pretty good. Put the terminals back on the battery. I actually did clean the terminals on the battery. Put it on. Came back to my car, tried to start it up. Guess what? Nothing. Same situation, nothing. So at that point, I was thinking, oh man, maybe I actually need to jump at that point. So I was still kind of happy because, I'm hoping that it wasn't like some big issue where I'd have to get the car towed. So I actually had a jumper pack that I bought from Walmart, a couple weeks ago. Had to charge up to 100% just for these situations. Just because the last couple of times, I kind of had to ask somebody to jump in and stuff like that. I didn't like doing that. So anyway, I put the jumper pack on and I turned it on and I cranked it. Nothing. So at that point, I was thinking maybe the jumper pack's not that strong. But I think it was charged up to 100%. And it worked for it should have worked. Is what I'm saying. Anyway, even if it wasn't that strong, I would have at least had like a slow crank or something like that. It wasn't even a slow crank. Didn't hear even. So it kind of sucks. This kind of sucks. So I'm like, okay, all right. So the jumper pack didn't do anything. So at that point, I was thinking, all right, I got to get somebody to jump my car just so I know 100% that it wasn't the issue. I went, asked around for somebody to jump my car. 3 or 4 people, had somebody, who was okay with doing it, took out the jumper cables, put it on, tried to turn it on, nothing at all. All right. So at that point, I was thinking to myself, okay, all right, I'm going to wait a couple minutes and hopefully this will take care of the issue. Have it charged up so that I could turn it on. Charged up for a couple of minutes, try to turn it on, nothing. Blank, nothing, zero, zippo, zero, zippo, zippo. So at that point, I was just scratching my head and, oh man, at that point I was like, okay, now we're in for a bigger problem at this point. All right, none of that stuff worked. We're in for a bigger issue. I'm in for a bigger issue at this point. So I was thinking, okay, I could probably rule out the battery at this point. Maybe it's the alternator. So I was thinking, every single time I've had an alternator issue where the alternator, caused my car not to start, it was because the battery was depleted because the alternator wasn't charging it. And all those times, the car was on the road. I was driving the car all those times. I was actually, it was either idling or the car was driving. But most of the time, all the time, my engine was on. I mean, my engine was not on, prior to this situation. So, regardless, I know the test for the alternator. If you put cables on the battery and you try to turn on the car, and basically, if the car turns, if you put cables on the battery from another source of power and the car turns on, and then when you take the cables off, the car would die out, that that was the alternator, that was the issue. Unfortunately, this was not. That's not even the issue here because it didn't even do anything. It didn't crank over, it didn't turn on, nothing. It did nothing. So at this point, I know that it's probably not the alternator, probably not the battery. And I cleaned up the terminals. But as far as the terminal is concerned, I actually looked at the ground from the negative. If you guys don't know, the ground from the negative line actually attaches to the frame of the car. I was looking at it, trying to see if there's any kind of corrosion. I did end up, splashing some Coke on it, have it fizzled up and stuff like that. Maybe, if that was the problem, it would solve it. I tried to turn on my car, nothing happened. So none of that stuff happened. It sucks. None of that stuff happened. It didn't turn on my car. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of cold out. So I got back in my car. I was YouTubing a lot of stuff, Googling a lot of stuff. And okay, so at that point I was thinking, okay, I'm still pretty good as far as it could still be either the fuses or the relay, which are easy fixes if they were. I could always Uber to the AutoZone if that was the case. So I looked at the fuse box, found out where the starter fuse was, and I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the starter relay for another relay that's similar. And I did. I swapped that out, hoping that I would turn it on. Nothing happened. And I wasn't 100% sure that it was the relay at that point, but thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it's not the relay, knowing every time I try to turn it on, I hear a click. And normally that clicks either the relay clicking or the starter solenoid clicking. All right, it's probably one of those two things that's clicking. And normally what the relay does, it relays electricity from the battery to the relay to the starter solenoid. And hearing that click, I was pretty positive that it wasn't a relay. I couldn't be 100% sure that it wasn't that issue, that it wasn't the relay, but I was pretty sure, like 90% sure that it wasn't the relay, to the point where I was like, okay, fine, it's probably not the relay. I probably won't have to worry about that. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's the fuses. I shine a flashlight on the fuses, try to see if there's any burnt fuses. There's no burnt fuses. None, no burnt fuses. So I was like, maybe no burnt fuses, nothing, no burnt fuses. Okay. So I was like, let me think about the times where I had fuse issues. There was like 2 times where I had fuse issues. One time in my previous car, I had no electricity going to any part of the car. It was 100% dead. Found out that the fuse that was causing it was the main fuse that connected the battery to the fuse box. Found that out. Replaced the fuse. Everything worked back to normal again. Unfortunately, that's not this case here because I am getting power to everything, including the alarm. You know, promise I can't crank it up. That's not the problem. The other starting issue I had where there was a fuse issue was I actually the car would crank, or everything worked. The car would crank, but it wouldn't turn over, and it turned out that fuse was actually a fuel pump fuse. It was one of those things, a fuel pump fuse or something along those lines, fuel pump or whatever, and I was thinking to myself, this is not that case. This is not that situation because everything on this car works except it's not cranking. It's not cranking. So I couldn't say that was the situation because the car is not cranking at all. It's not cranking at all. So at that point I was thinking, okay, it's not one of those two things. Definitely not the fuel pump. It probably could be like the car's computer fuse. I'm not quite sure, but I just really didn't have a fuse tester to test out all the fuses and stuff like that. Wasn't able to test that out. But I'm pretty sure it's not the fuse that's causing it, which leads me to the unfortunate thought that it's probably the starter. And I didn't want to think it was the starter. I thought originally that's the thing that popped it in my head, but I mean that's probably not the issue here. No, I was thinking maybe that I was hoping that wasn't the issue because I did change out the starter. Like I changed out the starter, I'd say a good 10 months ago I changed out the starter. So I was hoping that it wasn't the starter because that means I only got maybe 15,000 miles on the starter. You know, I drive a lot. But it would disappoint me if it was a starter because I actually spent some time doing changing it out. Obviously, I bought a refurbished one instead of a brand new one because the refurbished was like half the price. The brand new one was $300. This one was $150. Core charge was $40. So it was like $190, $220, and then return the core. It was like $175 or something like that. Okay, but I did. Somebody did tell me about refurbished starters. That if you actually buy a refurbished starter, you're actually buying majority of the starter is actually used, meaning that they don't actually replace most of the parts on it. They only replace the parts that are broken, that made the starter not work, that made the starter not working. So I was like, oh man. I mean, I've had issues with alternators where I've bought refurbished alternators and they went out on me within like 6 months or whatever. But I was hoping this wasn't the case. Right now, I'm actually waiting for AAA to tow my car right now. And I thought I'd do this video for you guys if you guys are in the same situation. I called up AAA about 45 minutes ago, and hopefully they get here within like the next hour. But I'm going to keep you guys updated. Stay tuned, guys. I'm going to keep you guys updated on what the issue is on here. All right, guys? All right, guys. What's up? So here's what happened. AAA took 2 hours to send a tow truck. I waited 2 hours for them to send a tow truck to me. Man, wasted so much time. Had them tow my car to my house. I did all the testing as far as the fuses. It wasn't the fuses because all the fuses were good. I actually bought another relay from AutoZone, popped it in. That was good. That wasn't the problem. So I was thinking to myself, those weren't the problems. What could the problem be? And checked out all the terminals again. Actually used metal brush to actually brush out the terminals the battery terminals, brushed it all out, popped it in, nothing. So what I ended up doing was I took everything out, and once I got to the starter, I actually put a line from the battery to the positive of the battery to the positive to the terminal on the solenoid of the starter. You know, try to see if it actually moves, and nothing. It doesn't turn, nothing at all. So at that point, I knew that it was the starter that was the issue. Took it out, took it to AutoZone. It was you know, had a couple words with them about it, and you know, they told me that it was a lifetime warranty, but that wasn't the problem, man. You know, I spent a couple hours working on this. I spent a couple hours waiting for AutoZone. You know, it wasted my whole entire day. It wasted the rest of the day yesterday and the whole entire day today. And but long story short, I was able to get the starter for, you know, they changed it. I popped it in, and everything is now working. It's turning on. Everything works. So I mean, I'm glad the situation's resolved. I'm back to doing, you know, whatever, you know, doing what I need to be doing. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that my starter that I got only lasted me a good 10 months. Horrible. But if you guys are in the same situation, you know, I hope this video has helped you guys out. Please, you know, give me a thumbs up, please. Comment, please. You know, whatever you guys want, you know, to do as far as commenting and leaving a thumbs up, whatever. But I hope you guys out, right, guys? Take care.